6 o'clock, I'll call this regular city council meeting to order. If you'll rise, we'll have an invocation of our pledge. Kenny, will you lead us?
Kind of great to Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord. Father, we just ask that you just be with us. Lord, we conduct city business, Lord, just grant us wisdom and guidance, Lord. We just ask that you'll bless our town and our man of the brain, Lord. Just watch over and protect us, Father. Forgive us what we fail you, for us in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Janine, is there any public comments?
No, sir.
Mitch, new city employees?
No, I don't think we got here. We got a couple, but
In what department?
Public Works.
Consider and approve minutes from the March 28th meeting. There are no additions or corrections. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 28th meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Eric. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve the monthly departmental reports. If you have a question, please identify yourself.
I don't really have a question, it's just more of a notice and popular request. I mean, we're starting to get warmer, and you're seeing that, you know, in the, on page 24, looking at the parks and stuff, you know, Dunbar's been watered twice, and it's looking significantly better than some of the other ones. I just think we probably just need to start getting that rotation starting again, to get our parks and the swimming pool area watered, and mostly a bunch of weeds in that swimming pool walking track area, you know, just kind of start getting things out. It hasn't been planned already, but, you know, it's probably gonna be a hot, dry year.
I don't know how those weeds grow with nothing else will.
But it'd be nice to have, you know, some green parks and stuff, especially with Memorial Weekend coming up next month, stuff like that, so.
You'll notice on page 40, the difference in interest rate makes when there's money in the bank. $40,000 a month is pretty good interest for revenue. Better coming in than going out. And on page 46, we had a pretty significant month for sales tax.
Right.
Good signs. Any other questions on the departmental reports? If not, can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the monthly departmental reports.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Buddy. If there's no further discussions, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve the March expenses. If there's no questions, can we get a motion to approve those expenses?
I make a motion we approve the March expenses.
Second.
Motion's been made by Buddy, seconded by Kenny. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, we will have our presentation and acceptance of the Bollinger, Seegers, Gilbert, and Moss financial report audit. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you doing, Mayor, today? You know, I came and did this last year. It was our first audit with the city of Littlefield, and so we're out here a little earlier. I just, you know, just a side note, you know, I hate that I missed the last meeting. I know it was in March. We've had this report dated since February, so just couldn't quite get out here for the time that y'all had that meeting scheduled last month. So I apologize for that, but we certainly appreciate having the city of Littlefield as a client at Bollinger Seegers. So it's year two, still big changes going on there at the city of Littlefield, kind of Grant-wise, so one of the big things that we're gonna have to do this year for the city is perform a single audit, which is a compliance audit, where we dive in a little bit deeper on grant fund expenditures and make sure that they were expended in compliance with the federal government and for the purpose of that grant program. So, y'all probably see me again here in a month or two. And that engagement will be due by June 30th to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. So
That's because we've received so much grant money.
yeah, so it's on expenditures, but yeah, it's expended grant funds during a year. You get two buckets in the state of Texas. You have a state bucket of grant funds and a federal bucket. And if you expend over $750,000 out of either bucket, you trigger the threshold for a single audit. One's in compliance with Texas single audit standards, one's in compliance with federal single audit standards. So this year it'll be, for the ARPA program, will be the major program. So the Rescue Plan Act and those funds that were used for that grant purpose in the 2022 financial statement. So we will be doing that just as a heads up moving forward and plan on having that turned in timely for the June 30 deadline on that. Other things, we've fully closed out the detention center fund for these financial statements. We had some leftover fund balance, and it doesn't really have a personality of its own, so it's no longer a proprietary fund, the detention center. It is getting some payments in lieu, and so of taxes related to that agreement that was signed for offloading that detention center. And so we've moved that to be reported with the general fund until it either gains a substance or it will be there until if it never really gains a substance. So as it is now, it's just, for the purpose of the financial audit report, it would be more general fund operations that are accounted for in a separate fund in the financial statements. So, the first thing I like to start with generally is we cover the results of an audit would be records. And so we have two things that I provided with y'all with this evening, and the first thing would be a letter. And in this letter, there could be important stuff in here, and we give this to, it's our communication as the auditors with governance of an entity at the conclusion of an audit. And so if anything changes from year to year, whether it's accounting standards, estimates, allowance for doubtful accounts, depreciation lives, whatever it may be, we list those in this letter. For the purpose of this letter, we really don't have anything to report to y'all for the 2022 audit. The main thing here is, as governance and oversight, we do disclose all of the entries that we're making as a part of our audit procedures. So, and the note on those, we made 15 entries for the 2022 audit, but we don't consider any of those to be material to the financial statements. Some of them are accrual, just changes from cash to accrual on payroll and certain other accruals of that nature, PTO. But none of those do we consider to be material to the financial statements. So, what that leads us to believe would be that the financial data you're making decisions off of is generally right in the ballpark to be made to make secure financial decisions off of throughout the year. So, any questions on that? No? Okay, we'll keep going. So we solidify kind of what I just told you in a letter in the audit report, and it's on page 42 and 43 of the audit report. So we own two things as your outside auditor in this audit report. We own the opinion letter that has our signature on it. And the second thing that we own would be the internal control letter. We're giving you specific attestation advice on internal controls. So the main thing that I would tell you about this letter is, there's a lot of caveats going on, but one of those would be that y'all hire us to do a financial statement audit, and we're hired to assess risk. So if something changes from year to year, if somebody new is doing something from year to year, reading a trial balance and analytically going through those numbers to assess risk, we're required to design procedures responsive to annual risk. So we don't need to come in here and do the same thing every year. We need to address risks as they come up and give a good, clean opinion on the financial statements based on what we do. So with that said, we don't specifically design procedures to find internal control weaknesses or internal control deficiencies. So, but if we do come across those, we are required by auditing standards to report those in this letter to you all. And we kind of solidify our communication in the last paragraph, where we say in the last sentence of that paragraph, given these limitations, as I explained to y'all, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. So, you know, the things that we're looking at, the internal control processes that we're reviewing, seem to be solid for the city of Littlefield as it relates to the audit and what we specifically tested for the 2022 audit. And we also give you a report on compliance. So there's a lot of red tape around running cities, you know, whether it be secured collateralization of your funds in the bank, right? You know, SVB just went under, you know, a few months ago. So one of the things y'all have to do as a city and a place that collects property taxes is securely maintain those funds in a bank account that's secured by collateralization. And so we look at that throughout the year to make sure that the bank's maintaining appropriate collateral to cover y'all's specific accounts in the event that they ever went bankrupt. And so that's required by the Public Funds Investment Act for the state of Texas, and that's something we're looking at. And we give you a clean opinion on compliance with state laws. There's many other things we're looking at, but that's just an example of something we would be looking at, as well as other aspects of the Public Funds Investment Act, and then your bond funds and related covenants to the bond funds. Any questions on that? Okay, so that's kind of my overview of controls. You know, I think the city appears to be in a pretty good place as far as record keeping and the things we asked for, they're available. So, you know, I think that in our, you know, what we would say is that it looks good here at the city of Littlefield as far as the records are going, and things we asked for as your outside auditor. Okay. All right. So with that, the records out of the way, we'll get into the financial statements and take a look. So we're reporting on the September 30, 2022 balances. So that's a hair bit in the past now, but so. You know, the thing that we do is go in and give a second look at things they've been telling you. So whether it's cash in bank, invested monies, liabilities to other entities, bonds payable, you know, we're checking all of those balances to make sure they're properly stated. And we do procedures in order to give you an opinion, and our opinion is now on page 1 of the audit report. In the second paragraph, we give the opinion as the outside auditor, where we say, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, the aggregate discretely presented component unit, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city of Littlefield, Texas as of September 30, 2022. So we give a clean opinion on the financial statements for the year ended September 30, 2022. And then we have a few financial statements I'd like to look at, as well as some note disclosures with you all tonight. But so on Exhibit 8.3 or page 6, we have your governmental funds, and so we have two funds broken out. We have your general fund and grant fund, and then what we would call the aggregate remaining general or governmental fund information in the third column. So looking at your assets versus your liabilities, we have total assets in these funds as of September 30, 2022 of $4,317,733, and those assets are offset by liabilities for accounts payable, wages payable, and other current liabilities in the amount of $220,746. We have some deferred income related to property taxes and emergency medical services of $154,710. So if we take our assets less our liabilities and deferred inflows, we have what we call fund balance, and your total fund balances for all of those funds was $3,942,277. So, you know, the things that, you know, you would look at there is that the general fund is the lion's share of that fund balance at $3,673,000, and in the general fund that balance is unassigned. So, you know, there's that money or fund balance would be available to be spent in 2023 if needed, and budgeted for the 2023 year of $3,673,000. And one of the health indicators we usually look at is, and I think TML, you know, Texas Association of Counties would tell you, you know, one of the main indicators of health would be unassigned fund balance to total expenditures in that year. So you had total unassigned fund balance of $3,673,000. And then on Exhibit A5, we have total expenditures of $8,491,000. So, you know, some things to communicate there would be that, you know, a healthy number they would tell you would be 3 to 6 months of unassigned fund balance. So if you're right around 50% of what you expended on unassigned fund balance, that would be a healthy number. So you're not at 50%, but you're somewhere between the 3 and 6 month mark as it's looked at there. But you know, in our governmental funds, when we spend money on outlays, they're expensed in that picture. So the fixed asset outlays are not year to year the same. And I would note that y'all had, you know, you're finishing up the aquatic center, and some of those expenditures were falling out in this year. And so, you know, I wouldn't expect your expenditures to be that high year to year in the general fund. So overall, that, you know, from what we see as your outside auditor, the general fund appears to be in healthy shape as of September 30, 2022. So that's your governmental funds. You know, the next thing I just wanted to cover with y'all is the detention center and water and sewer fund. So going through exhibits A7, A8, and A9, we have a look at those fund and funds. So on the balance sheet picture, we've transferred the assets related to the detention center sale and the payments in lieu of taxes over to the general fund as of the audit report date. So we're left with just the water and sewer fund, and that fund had total assets of $12,884,686, and as well as deferred outflows, which are an asset of $28,126, and those are offset by liabilities at year end. $339,776 in the short term, and then long-term liabilities of $541,708. So, as well as deferred inflows related to pension and OPEB of $130,443. Again, what we're looking for here is what's left over, and then your net position of the assets, you had $11,900,885 that's rolling forward to the 2023 year. It is important to note that not all of that's in spendable form, and we have that marked down there in your net investment and capital assets of $6,145,009. So the unrestricted net position for 2023 for this fund would be marked at $5,755,876. And you know, all of that's not liquid, certainly, but you know, what we look at that is, are you building it or shrinking it over time? So if you turn to Exhibit A8, we have an income statement where we can see the growth or decline. And you know, just at the bottom of the page, you can see there for the water and sewer fund, we had a change in net position positive of $1,502,712. So you know, you make some margins there on the sales of that utility, but you know, you have long-term expenses related to serving that. So you know, in that rate, you're going to have built-in amounts that are going to be, you know, building up and hopefully accumulating in case you have maintenance projects or other projects in that fund. So as your outside auditor and probably finance folks, you would look to build a balance there of net position over the life of the plant that you have out there, and that's kind of why we want to see that trending in the upward direction as the sales of utilities for that fund. And then in the second column, you can see where the detention center was transferred out to the general fund for reporting purposes. Transferred out the assets from the sale, which were liquid, and the payments in lieu of taxes, $2,458,802 as of September 30, 2022. So, you know, again, I think this fund is showing the right indicators of health, and so we're comfortable with it as your outside auditor for 2022's audit. Any questions on the financial statements?
Restricted funds, hotel motel tax, do we have a rolling balance that's collecting, or is it identified in this audit? Those are really the only restricted funds.
It is, so we have, yeah, I don't know if we have it broken out, but certainly it's been tracked. Yeah, as of right, the hotel motel occupancy taxes are being reported, grouped up into the general fund. But the total revenue for that for the year was $39,703. But it is restricted for advertising and certain purposes related to that.
We spend some with that, I guess the counts against this on it. But does that balance accumulate year after year after year?
The amount of, the roll forward balance in that?
Yeah, so I mean, is there gonna come a point if we're not spending as much as we're bringing in? I mean, it looks like it's adding to our general fund, but say their balance of hotel motel tax is $200,000.
Right.
Do we know what that is?
I would defer to Andrew right now, but I can get the answer for you.
But that never gets converted, it always stays.
It rolls, and, if it's in a separate fund, it rolls, and that fund would tell you what that balance was year over year.
And it always stays restricted.
And, right, for that purpose.
That was my only question.
Yes, sir. The other important notes, I think, this year, just highlights would be, we only had one issuance of long-term debt during the year. We did have a notes payable issue, and it's listed on page 23. It's new, $201,361 for the purchase of a wheel loader, and it was carrying an interest rate of 2.65%. So, just it's not a long-term obligation, but it is an obligation past this city council this year. And so we've listed that in the notes to the financial statement. It's what we consider a non-cash transaction, but I do think it is important to note any issuances of long-term debt as a part of this report package anyways. And then finally, I just wanted to give you all an update on your retirement and post-retirement benefit plans through TMRS. And we have a table on page 34 that's tracking the health of those plans. So as of the last measurement date, on Exhibit B1, which the date's indicated at the top, the last measurement date available for these financial statements was 12/31/2021. The market was still in great shape as of that day and time. And so, the caveat I would tell you would be that investments that were in the market on 12/31/2021 were doing good. And so I would expect those to come back down as we move forward to the next measurement date, which would have been 12/31/2022. They haven't released that information yet. But you should see this come back to earth. The main percentage that we're looking at is the third number from the bottom in the right-hand column. So that pension plan had more assets than liability. It was 108% funded as of that measurement date of 12/31/2021. And so we had significant gains from the prior year of 12/31/2020 up, and that was at 101% funded. As we look at these from the outside point of view, anything over 85% funded we consider healthy. This is a long-term estimate, and whether it's investment returns, discount rates, or other things that are going into producing the estimate on the liability or the valuation of the plan assets, those can change if you move out 30 years significantly. So, it's not great to be 130% funded, somewhere over 85, but not all your eggs in one basket, because you can't get the money back once you give it to them. So there's no refund process from TMRS. So, I think it's in good shape as of that measurement date. And then, we have another benefit that you're providing to employees, which is a death retirement benefit. So, this is a unique measurement, and so you've obligated yourself as a part of providing this benefit for employees to some money out into the future. But really, it's they purchase contracts, so you're not extended more than any 1 year of contract purchases for these death benefits that are paid if needed. But if the city shut down on September 30, 2022, it would be expected that it would cost $250,000 to provide that benefit until employees would no longer have the ability to claim on that benefit. And that's in line with the last 2 years. As the discount rate would go up, you would expect it to press a little bit, but the price of those insurance contracts is going up that they're purchasing at TMRS. Any questions on either of those? Okay, well, you know, that was the financial information that I wanted to put in front of y'all tonight. You know, if y'all have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I can, and get back to you if I need to.
Are we paying TMRS too much?
You know, it's hard to tell. I think that's gonna go back to around 100% funded, which you certainly wouldn't want to come out of pocket for anything. And so I think that's, you know, it's right in there. I think a lot of people are moving up to over 100% funded with that measurement date. So I would tell you to wait a few years and see how that's going. You know, if you don't pay what they tell you to pay on, so they send a rate letter each year that says, here's your required contribution percentage. And so I think you have to at least pay that, and that's really where you are. You know, it's not like you're contributing more than that required contribution percentage as given to you by TMRS.
Thank you for that information, and thank you for doing our audit.
Well, you know, again, I apologize for not making the last meeting, and we're happy to be a part of this for City of Littlefield. You know, y'all do hire us as the city council, and we work for y'all. So if you ever need us to come out and chat with you about anything, y'all feel free to, you know, Andrew or Mitch can get in contact with us, and we'd be happy to come out.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Janine, do we need to accept that?
It won't, I mean, it's just presentation and council acceptance, so yeah, I guess we do.
You do want to. Should we get a motion to accept that financial audit, financial report?
Make a motion to accept the financial audit report, involving the city of Gilbert Moss.
Motion's been made by Ken, is there a second?
I'll second.
Been seconded by Buddy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will consider and reappoint Bollinger, Seegers, Gilbert, and Moss for our audit for the next year. Entertain a motion to reappoint them for the next year.
Yeah, I'll make that motion. Reappoint Bollinger, Seegers, Gilbert, and Moss for our annual audit.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Buddy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, and we'll see you in a month or two.
Okay.
Well, stick around if you want, it's pretty interesting.
Well, you know, I do love the sticking it all out, but I appreciate the offer to exit, so thank y'all. Thank you.
Next, we'll consider and approve annual financial assurances as required by TCEQ for municipal landfill closure, and authorize city manager and treasurer to sign that. So you'll see that on, this is a deal we do every year for the closure of the landfill. In the event we show TCEQ that we do have the money set aside to close that. Every year I ask if we can maybe put up a CD. I talked to Mitch again about that. He's going to check into it some more, but this letter of credit cost us 1% a year, so it does add up, $4,000 something. So if there's a way we can put a CD or something up, it might make sense. But normal business, this has already been done for the year, correct? We're waiting on authorization.
Well, the bank wants us to get this in early, and that way it takes them a while to act on it and to do the stuff. I don't think, you know, I don't know that it would put us in a bind postponing it, but I might call it a ripple. I know the state, works with the state on that, and it's pretty particular timing-wise. Andrew and I talked about this a couple of years ago, and we kind of wrote it off, because of some of the difficult requirements or the options you have for doing this assurance. I don't know that we could do the assurance that it, as one of the options in a timely enough manner to get it in this year. And I guess that's
I'm
the
not
easiest
asking
way
for
to
that, just need to check into it for next year.
do that.
Entertain a motion to approve this financial assurance and authorize city manager and treasurer for signatures.
Make a motion to go ahead and approve the annual financial assurance required by TCEQ for the municipal financial and authorize city manager and treasurer signature.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Kenny, seconded by Eric. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve the sale of a trust property by Texas Community Groups. There was only one bidder, Alan and Vanessa Dolly. This property is on West
15th.
East 15th.
Yeah.
The house that was seized, we've made a very nice bid that will allow us to continue to tear down a lot of structures if we can find somebody to tear them down. Entertain a motion to accept that bid.
I make a motion that we accept the bid from Allen and Vanessa Dolly on the property at 1002 Dugan for $40,010.
Well, that's their address. It's 303 East.
303 East 15th.
I second that. Motion's been made by Buddy, seconded by Eric. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve any changes to the aquatic center rules and orders.
Mayor, I wanted to get this out in front of you guys, in case there's some things you see that we may need to look at changing. I think we should move on it pretty quick if you do have some changes, because we'll be opening up our first day rentals on May 19th. Probably a good idea to have these kind of set in stone. If you look at the front and back, both sides printed copy I just gave you, I've highlighted some areas. Some have changed and some just might need some discussion if y'all want to look at it. Just briefly, I'll kind of go through the different things. Y'all just stop me if you want to discuss any of the things. The admission, I would recommend to stay at $3. We got a lot of use, and that's, very popular price. It's a little bit lower price than a lot of places because everybody pays to go through the gate. And I highly recommend we stay with that, because you get into some real difficulties trying to decide who pays and who doesn't pay when you're dealing with a swimming pool and 400 guests a day. And then, of course, the ticket books would change if you didn't change that admission. Down on the party fees,
It's currently $3 and you're proposing to leave it.
just leave it at 3, and then the same thing on the pass books. On the rentals, I had someone suggest to me that we should maybe go up a little bit on the rentals, so I kind of put about a 10% increase on those rentals. Your copy didn't come out real good, so instead of 200, it'd be 225 for the bottom, first lowest rental, and then it would go up to 390 for 3 hours for over 100, up to 160. And I know, some of you were probably involved with the rental things. I know, Buddy, they had rented it. I don't know what that price is, if that's something we want to change or just keep it the way it was. It's about $14,000 a year is what we get off of the party rentals. So, change it 10%, you might bring in $1,400 more for the year. And the other thing I have down there is just to prevent any kind of double booking, which we were lucky we never got into any double booking issues or refund issues, but at the bottom of that front page, I have added that the rentals may be refunded because of weather, and then myself or the pool manager are the ones that approve the rentals. On the back of the page, we added some wording to clarify our regulation as far as bringing in outside food. We had no outside coolers, but this was a recommendation that I received yesterday from our pool manager about maybe clarifying that a little bit. And a couple of lines down, we put an extra line in there for vaping and electronic smoking devices. And I checked with Brian, our attorney, and this is the wording he gave me to use for that. And that's really about the only changes that we would need some direction on. If you guys want to change it, or we can leave everything pretty much the way it was. Not anything real earth-shaking, but wanted to get this in front of you guys so you have a chance to look at it before we start over here.
Is Coach David Cruz going to still be the manager?
Yes, and Keith's been helping, I'm hoping Keith will do his online training to be a manager too.
Pay reflective of that certification pay changes if he doesn't.
Right. He doesn't, he's not getting paid manager wages.
And the lifeguard pay, looking at that, you evaluated that?
Really hadn't planned to go up on that any. I think we were aggressive at first, and which was paid off for us, because a lot of pools like in Lubbock, they have to close because we don't have lifeguards. So we were able to get them, and Jose's got some ideas to cut down on our employee costs a little bit. We really blew it up last year because they had to vacuum the dirt out of the pool as well as public works all the time because of the no ground cover around the pool. And then, plus, we purposely really overstaffed and a lot of times just because we didn't know what kind of crowds we were gonna be dealing with, like for the grand opening and different things. So he's gonna be working hard to kind of get those employee costs in good shape, and they absolutely will be less this year than what they were last year. But, you know, pools never really make money, but we want to minimize any kind of difference there. It's costing us money. You know, it's an asset, but it's really hard to define how much it's helping the community. I figured it, you know, impacts sales tax a little bit too, but you know, we just want to be efficient with this this asset.
Make a motion, we approve all the recommendations of the city manager on rates and rules.
I have a question on one of the rules.
Yes.
The food and beverage not allowed in the pool areas. Is that still gonna be on the rental deal too, or just general admission during the day?
Well, I think the main thing is they don't have a pool, not sitting in the pool eating, basically is the main thing. I think the old wording kind of implied that you had to be in the concession stand eating, so we don't want that, but this just kind of clarifies.
So we had a problem with that, I guess?
Not really, but, yeah, you get wrappers and food and recycled food in the pool sometimes.
So you can bring coolers into the pool?
No coolers or outside food or beverages allowed.
Maybe need some better clearing on wording on that, yeah.
Okay. Brian wrote this up. So, just to make sure I understand what you're saying here is,
You're saying in the actual water on this
No, in
roll?
the pool, he means in the facility maybe instead of.
I'll put in the leisure pool.
No, I think what he's he's saying is what we're understanding is that you don't allow coolers, food, or outside food or beverage through the gate, right?
Right.
So this sounds like it's in the water.
It sounds like it's maybe in the water.
Well, that first part is the food and beverages, that was meant to not allow any food or beverages caught on site or brought into the pool. So I could put leisure pool there and that would clear it up.
Maybe we just misunderstood, we don't need to add, so no food or beverage in the pool, no, second sentence, no coolers, outside food or beverages are allowed, possibly in the facility.
I could put, in the facility in there, and that would make it
I
clear.
know one of the things in the rental last year was you did to bring that because the concession stand wasn't open. Is that still gonna be the same thing, or?
Well, I think last year what they did is they just asked, do you want the concession open or not?
No.
And a lot of people said no. And
We got to bring in hot dogs and
Yeah.
cook them on the little griddle over there.
yeah, the parties, you could bring what you wanted in there to, if I had the grill,
Birthday cakes.
birthday cakes.
I mean, the way it's worded right now, it just says food and beverages must be confined to the concession area
Mhm.
and no coolers allowed.
Yeah, but, we had people that were wanting to bring in food that were not in a cooler. And anyway, it's a fine point, but you gotta realize when you're arguing with somebody about food.
You probably just need two rules, one that says you can't bring anything in, and then one that notates where you get to eat it at.
Yeah, that's what we tried to do there, and I think it's, you're right, we need to clarify that.
So it's your intention that a party can bring in birthday cakes,
Yes.
hot dogs,
Yes.
coolers, but during normal operation.
And during those parties and stuff, and people have it rented out, there are lifeguards there that would be enforcing
There's lifeguards.
that rule.
There's lifeguards and the manager, I believe.
On the parties, people are allowed to bring any kind of food or drinks.
Except alcohol, correct?
No alcohol, glass. But during the regular admission time, when the pool's open, 1 to 6, your refreshments have to be bought on site, unless, on page 1, unless you rent a table, and then we have a deal for that where they can rent a table for a party and then charge, and then, they can bring in a birthday cake and then we provide, 10 drinks for $35. And the only reason I did that is because, somebody comes out there at 3 in the afternoon and says, hey, we're gonna have a birthday party for my son, and you say, no, we can't bring the birthday cake. That's a bad deal.
Withdraw my motion then. The new motion is that we approve all your suggested changes and clean up the language for food and beverage, however, as we discussed.
And the party rentals, how did we do last year? Were they filled up pretty much throughout the year, or?
Yes, but just my experience has been that first day can get pretty, out of hand if you aren't careful and set it up to where there's a time and people can get in line to get that first day. After the first day, then, it's first come, first served. And most of our rentals, I think, got done probably in the first week or two. Everybody was wanting to get the day.
I just really don't want to run them away if they're renting it at that price, even if we kind of jack it up a little bit. It's not, if it's $225, you're looking at 100, it's $225 a person, but they're gonna get in for 100. And then we're charging them, what are we getting at? $225. That's just my opinion. I don't know how that 25, I just don't want them not to, if it stays rented, that's fine.
Well, somebody had told me somewhere during the year that we should charge more for the rental, not, just put it out there for you guys.
We certainly want to cover our overhead with all our staff too.
Last year, the demand did seem to outstrip the supply pretty well,
Okay.
because we had people calling in for a long time that we just had to say it's all filled up, so.
All right.
So, I would say, that's what it seemed like to us. We were dealing with it a lot in our office, because people would call the city, and there was still a lot of interest in it, even far out.
There's not many things you can do and rent some for 2 hours for 100 people for $200.
Well,
And
and
then
it's
if you
just,
can't bring no food in, that's gonna be another
Well, that's-
part right there too, that's,
When you rent, you're allowed to bring food and drinks, not alcohol.
Yeah.
I'd say you just need to be careful with the private parties from like an ethical standpoint, and that when you open it up to the public, it's great to give them a low rate, but when you're doing a private party, what you don't want to happen is for it to cost us more for 2 hours than they're paying us in a rental
Yes.
fee, because we're kind of government subsidizing a private party at that point. It's okay to open it up to everybody for a cheap amount, and then we'll lose a little bit of money on the pool, but it kind of crosses an ethical boundary when we are government subsidizing money for a private party that not everybody in town is invited to, would be my theory on it.
You can only reserve one day, right?
On the first day. And you got a limit of like, something like 2 per year. But, as you go through the year, if they're available, you rent them first come, first served. We run all those through the pool manager, so there won't be any group double bookings. That's really the issue, if you have a double booking where he rented a day and then I rented a day, but
So the first day I can come in and rent 2 days of the summer.
the first day. But, the first day, you can come back and rent it. I believe the limit is 2.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, that keeps somebody from coming in and renting. I want to rent every Wednesday night from them.
There was a few people that would have multiple family members come.
Yeah.
So the motion on the floor is to approve his suggested changes with cleaning up the food and beverage still a little bit.
Yes.
Any more discussion or second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, the motion carries. Next, we'll consider and approve a contract for bulk waste hauling at the collection station. As you know, Mr. Stidham had passed away a while back, and he was dumping our dumpsters that we own. He dumped them for us at the police station. So Mitch got a new contract.
Yes, it's really hard to get very many people interested in this, and finally got somebody, Michael Christine, Mike, we'll call him, the next LVL Rentals, he's, can do it for $150, a load for us. Stidham was doing it for $100, but he was begging for more money on it. He wanted to go up to $200, but, Christine, they've offered to do this for us, and written up a contract for your approval.
Entertain a motion to approve that contract for bulk waste hauling,
this is a 1-year contract.
Yes, but it continues month to month. That's why we did the last one. There's also a 90-day out if we get unhappy with it.
Do we currently have a dumpster out there?
There's 2. We have the 2 that we got with the grant.
And his trailer will hook up to them?
Yep. Yeah, he went and, he's actually lost the trailer. I hope y'all approve it. Wasn't something we could hang around and see what happens, because there are people that love that legislation. They make a lot of stuff.
Have you got any leads on anybody who possibly maybe take over the demolition?
I've got a couple of people I'm talking to. I have one especially that I'm trying out right now to see how he does with it, and kind of see if he is gonna like doing it or not, because, I mean, it's not for everybody. Got a couple of people I'm talking to about it, and one I'm trying out right now.
Motion to approve this contract.
I make a motion, we approve the contract for the bulk waste hauling at the collection station.
I'll second that.
Motion been made by Michael, seconded by Eric. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve a special meeting date of May 11th, 2023 at 12 p.m. to canvass the election and oath of office for the council members, District 3, District 4, and the mayor, and other business that may arise. Entertain a motion to set that special meeting date of May 11th.
I make a motion, we set that date for May 11th, 2023 at 12 p.m. for canvassing the election.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion been made by Michael, seconded by Kenny. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. We're adjourned.
Should be, that's in the
11th is,